Hi everyone, I'm Yashra and welcome to the 7th episode of Election Skip. Today we'll be discussing our most competitive election to date, the general elections being held in Virginia. Virginia is an interesting case because it's the balance of the many worlds that make up the United States. It's part northern and part southern, being geographically and historically a middle link on the eastern seaboard. It's part Democratic and part Republican, with various regions being large liberal cities or expansive conservative countrysides. It both has strong ties to DC, as well as against it. And all of this comes together for an extremely competitive race, which pushes both sides to bring out all their stamina and power every 4 years. Incumbent Governor Terry McAuliffe, a Democrat, is term limited despite only being on his first term. This is because Virginia is the only state in the Union to have a one-term limit for its governorship. Candidates can run again, but they cannot succeed themselves, and most ex-governors just don't bother going for a second term. This bizarre rule, common in the Old South but since then declining in popularity, means that a whole new field of challengers rise every 4 years, and they certainly have this year, and we all know that nothing riles up Americans more like more politicians, yeah. On the Democratic side, the two candidates running were the Lieutenant Governor, Ralph Northam, and former Congressman Tom Perillo. Northam was initially expected to take the cake easily, being next in the line of succession. But a strong challenge from Perillo left him in a somewhat competitive race. Northam did win by 11 points, but the race was not the snooze fest it was promised to be. Similarly, on the GOP side, former Republican National Committee Chairman Ed Gillespie was expected to have an easy time, but a surprisingly strong challenge from far-right County Supervisor Corey Stewart left him clinging onto his nomination by a margin of just 1%, winning by 5,000 votes out of 366,000 cast. So now we get to the general election, which, as usual, has been long and very hard fought. As expected in a race like this, all the big-shot members of both parties, former presidents, leaders, and donors, have lined up to support the nominees, and $25 million has already been spent in the race. And a lot of deep controversies, such as the race demonstrations and riots in Charlottesville, have stood up strong feelings about politics and the state of American society that have exerted themselves, sometimes brutally, in this race. But, to be fair, both candidates have gained widespread acclaim for their civility and politeness. They didn't even raise their voices at all in the last debate. Overall, the race started out giving Gillespie a good shot at winning, as he led by a few points margin in most polls. But the race has shifted. Northam has led almost all polls since about June by 1 to 10 points. But there are usually a double-digit number of undecideds out there, which makes the race more interesting. We can say that the race leans towards Northam, but by no means is this a closed case, and voters should not expect an easy victory for anyone on election night. In addition, elections will be held for the Virginia House of Delegates, the lower house of the state legislature, not the state Senate, however. The state house is currently pretty lopsided. The Republicans control a whopping 66 seats, while the Democrats only control 34. However, Democrats are optimistic because 17 of the seats Republicans have to defend were won by Hillary Clinton, while not a single Democrat in the House represents a Trump seat. So there's a lot of room for optimism for both the Democrats and the GOP in the legislature, and it'll be really fun to see how that plays out on election night. Coincidentally, more presidents have been born in Virginia than any other state. It's very much a kingmaker. So that's the shtick going on in Virginia. The election is on November 7th, alongside general elections in New Jersey and the special election in Utah. This election is crucial as a gauge for the popularity, resilience, and campaign clout of both parties, and we have the privilege of taking its temperature. So thanks for watching, and remember, don't forget to vote.